right, everybody, so here we are. We're on Rock Road in Glen Rock. We're right at the Glen Rock Inn, and I've got a guy with us. It's just an amazing story. His name is Adam Faatz. Adam, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, thank you for having me.
So Adam is a Hawthorne High School graduate. Shout out your class.
2006.
Class of 2006.
Yeah.
And there's so much to go over. The reason why he caught my attention is because in September of 2023, Adam, who's never really done a lot of climbing, is going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, which is, you guys that don't know, it's a really, really high mountain. It's just under how many feet?
Just under 20,000. It's the world's tallest freestanding mountain.
Just under 20,000 feet. Some airplanes can't go up that high. But he's taken that on. So I called him up and I wanted to understand more about what he was doing. So again, I really appreciate you coming by.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So Adam is an Army veteran, served in Iraq for 5 years?
Total 1 year there, 5 years active duty.
5 years active duty. All right, so tell us, so you went to Hawthorne High School, graduated 2006.
Yes, I graduated June 2006, and by October 2006, I was in Fort Leonard Wood for basic training.
Yeah. Now, when you were in high school, did you say, I'm going to join the military?
Yeah, so I knew I was going to join the military.
Thank you so much. And what's your name?
Darlene.
Darlene. Hey, say hi to Darlene, everybody. Darlene, say hi to everybody.
Oh, you're on the phone. Hi. What are you doing? A video?
Yeah.
Hey. I want to get a little more fancy.
There you go.
So I knew I was going to join the military probably from the age of 13.
Wait, did you have military in your family?
I did. My uncle was Vietnam. My grandfather flew in World War II.
Oh, wow. Really?
My dad was Navy. But it wasn't really so much that. I think really what set it in for me was because of how close we are to New York City. So when September 11th happened, it was kind of like, all right, I want to do something about this. I ended up joining a program. It's called the Civil Air Patrol, and it's the auxiliary to the Air Force. And you can join that between the ages of 12 and 18.
Really?
Yeah, and
what's that like?
So it's sort of similar to the Eagle Scouts, but you wear a military uniform. You are the auxiliary to the actual active duty Air Force.
Really?
Yeah, so at 14 years old, they'll put you in an airplane and let you fly. It's a really cool program. So I joined the Civil Air Patrol, and that kind of got me into the military mindset of this is what I want to do.
Now, did you wear a uniform at school?
There was times where I had to. It is very similar to like a JROTC.
Like an ROTC.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's very similar. There was times where
13 years old.
We had to wear uniform to school, but no, for the most part, it wasn't like a school assigned uniform, anything like that.
Yeah.
But so basically, at the age of I would say probably 14, I knew I was going to join the military. I just didn't know what branch at the time.
Right.
So then I settled with the Army.
So what made you, you're looking at all the, so obviously you were thinking maybe Air Force.
Yeah, of course, Air Force. I was like, Air Force, I want to be a pilot.
That's cool. I want to fly jets.
It's exactly it. I had a family friend growing up. They, since I think I was probably diapers, I've known him. He was an Army recruiter. I got in contact with him, Joe, and I kind of just, my mind was made up. I didn't score high enough to join the Air Force. I didn't want to join the Marines. I already had tattoos. I couldn't join the Marines because of the tattoos.
Oh, is that right? Is that a rule?
Yeah. At the time, they were pretty strict. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know.
So I said, you know what, whatever. So I'm going to join the Army. So I joined the Army. Yeah.
And so how was it? So you joined the Army. Did they? What was the problem? Did they ship you away? When did you end up in?
I left.
Iraq.
So I left for boot camp for Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, October 30th, 2006. So we graduate here, and we graduate June of 2006. So I left October of 2006. I spent 22 weeks in Missouri for training, and then I got my first duty assignment was Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. So from
that's not bad.
Yeah. So from there,
it could be a lot worse.
So from Fort Leonard Wood, I went to Hawaii.
Little difference between Missouri and Hawaii?
A big difference. Yeah, big difference. I was supposed to deploy with an MP, a military police company, right out of... Basically, as soon as I got to Hawaii, I was supposed to deploy. I didn't because I was so sick. Nobody really knew why I was so sick. I ended up having... It was like a high-grade staph infection. It was MRSA. Oh. And, you can't really see it on the camera, but that's what this little bullet hole-looking scar is right there.
Wow.
So I ended up almost losing my arm. Right
You
when
have no idea how you got it.
No idea how I got it. I mean, I think staff, it's pretty common amongst like military trainees, prison system, anybody where there's close contact. So it probably came from boot camp. We don't know for sure, but it was severe. Severe. I spent a couple nights in the hospital on IV antibiotics. I had my arm. I remember I'm 18 years old. I'm in the hospital. I just got, you got to mind you, I only know, the Army I know, all I know is drill sergeants. That's it. So I'm this scared.
Great.
Yeah. So I'm this scared 18-year-old private that just got to Hawaii, the furthest in the United States you can be from home.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't know anybody. I don't have a car. I'm scared of everybody in the Army because all I know is drill sergeants. I don't know what the real Army is like yet.
Right.
So I was sick. I was so sick. I remember doing our swim qualifications because we're on an island. So, you have to jump off an Olympic diving board with a rifle and full gear. And you have to, trek water to make sure that you can trek water. And then, like in the movies, you have to make a flotation device out of your pants. And you put it around your neck and you scoop in air.
Right.
They want to make sure that if you're going to go to the beach on your off time, you know how to swim.
Yeah.
Because, unfortunately, there's soldiers in the Army that don't know how to swim. And I remember, I'll never forget how bad, that's when I realized how bad the infection was, because I was in the pool, a chlorinated pool, and there was flies trying to attack my arm in the water.
Really?
Yeah. And that was when I realized something seriously is going on. The hole in my arm was probably the size of 3 silver dollars put together. But again, I was 18 years old. I was scared.
Yeah,
I didn't want to say anything because all I kept thinking of was I'm going to get in
just
trouble.
Bandaged up and.
Yeah, I would put a little Band-Aid on it here and there, and nothing would work. Nothing would work. So I was at the PX. I was at the store on base, and I remember it was so severe at this point I couldn't bend my arm. My arm was just stuck like this because the swelling was so bad. It's throughout the whole arm. I couldn't bend it. There was a full-bird colonel standing in line behind me. We're talking about full-bird colonel. I'm a brand new private out of boot camp. I didn't want to talk to this guy. I didn't want to be near him. And I remember he said to me, he said, "Private, let me see your arm." And he said, "Private, what's wrong with your arm?" I said, "I don't know, sir." He looked at it, and he's like, "You need to go to the hospital." And he physically took me out of the store, brought me on base to the emergency room.
Really?
Yeah, and then from the emergency room, within about 10 minutes, I was in an ambulance going to Tripler Hospital in Honolulu.
A lot different than the drill sergeants.
Yeah, a lot different.
You really want to take care of you.
Yeah, so, of course, naturally scared, but, I got the Tripler, and they took my vital signs, and I'm 18 years old, and they're asking me to adult verify my life insurance policy, who my beneficiaries are going to be. They called my mom from Honolulu.
She must have been freaked out.
Said, "Hey, your son's very sick."
Did she fly out?
She didn't fly out. No. Knowing my mom, she probably was ready to.
Yeah.
Mom, if you're, when you're watching this.
We know you were ready.
Yeah, we know you're ready to, but, that's the last thing you want when I was in Hawaii not even a week. So between boot camp and then Hawaii, I didn't have any time off. I saw my parents, I think, for about 40 hours.
How long did it take you to heal?
About 2 years total. About 2 years. So I had surgery. So they started the operation just in the emergency room. They just thought it was going to be like a regular, I guess like a Dr. Pimple Popper procedure. I remember I knew I was in trouble at that point because they couldn't get the Novocaine into my arm because of how infected it was.
Really?
Yeah, and I remember them trying, and the needle was like hitting cement. The thing would just bend, and it would just do this and this. And so what they ended up doing, I don't want to be disgusting, they ended up cutting the arm open without anything to release some of the pressure. And that was the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. Wow. So they did that. Then I ended up getting super sick and basically screaming in pain. And they ended up they knocked me out. They sedated me completely, local anesthesia, and they brought me to an operating room. Drained the entire arm. I had tubes in it for about 6 weeks where I had to change the tubes myself. And the gauze, every day I'd
drain it every day.
Yeah, I had to go get surgical forceps to stick gauze all the way down to like my wrist, almost up to my collarbone by myself. And so I think that was the onset of when my health problems really started to begin, was because I was so sick for so long.
So during that time, were you in the hospital all that time? Or
2 nights.
2 nights.
That's it. That's it. They sent me home in 2 nights and then they told me to.
So back to base.
Yeah, and then basically I was my own doctor.
For 2 years.
For about 2 years. I think I had probably 4 or 5 more visits to the doctor because of just recurring infections near the arm. And it was
And
just.
how is it now? I mean, is it full?
Oh, it's totally fine now. I mean, the only thing you wouldn't know except for the scar right there. That's it. But that's it. Yeah.
So 2 years on base, taking care of yourself.
Yep.
What happened after that?
Went to Iraq.
That was it. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you feel better?
Yeah.
Come on, let's go.
I was ready to go to Iraq even in that condition.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Now mind
These
you,
Army guys.
you can mind you, this is also at the same time when I was told I had pneumonia.
Right.
I was told I had pneumonia in boot camp.
But they didn't know what it was.
No, so the pneumonia happened in December of 2006. I was in boot camp. I came home for Christmas leave. I went to a local hospital to us here in Jersey. The same day I got home, I said, I can't breathe. I'm vomiting uncontrollably. Every time I breathe in, I can't get enough air. I'm so short of breath that it's making me vomit. I said, all right, we probably have pneumonia. So I went for x-rays. It wasn't discovered until 2019 that I actually had 2 collapsed lungs. One on the left side was almost like total collapse, and then on the right side it was the lower lobe was collapsed. So,
And they only found that in 2019?
yeah, we found those records in 2019. So they sent me home from the local hospital here in that condition.
And
Now,
that must have been like 08, 09?
06.
06.
06.
That was before.
Yeah, so in 2006. So they sent me home, and like I said, the only reason I could think of them sending me home in that condition is because I was 18 years old. It was the holiday. I was home I was active duty military. I mean, I remember I went to the hospital in like my PT uniform, like my Army physical fitness uniform.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have any other clothes at that point. And I think that's the only reason they sent me home was because of that. But then from that point on, I had another 19 weeks of boot camp. And so I went back to Fort Leonard Wood and with the collapsed lungs, and I finished 19 weeks of boot camp with collapsed lungs.
So 19 weeks of boot camp with collapsed lungs. Then you get MRSA.
Yeah.
Then you're
Yeah, the MRSA came right after the pneumonia or collapsed lungs.
So now it's two, and there's no correlation between the two.
There had to be. In my opinion, this is my opinion. Doctors might argue this, but I think my autoimmune system was just so weakened with the collapsed lungs that it probably led to the
picked up an
MRSA.
infection.
Yeah.
So here now, 2 years later, you're starting to feel better, and let's go to Iraq. So you went to serve in Iraq.
Yeah, so in between those 2 years, though, I had gone to the doctor a couple times. I was always having sharp stabbing pains in my rib area. I said, something's wrong, man. And they're like, well, you smoke. I was like, yeah, but I don't smoke that much. And they're like, it's
Right, everybody
smoker.
smokes.
Yeah,
No,
especially in the
I'm the only one with
military.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially in the military. And it's not smoking, man. I can run. We run 10 miles on every Friday, and I don't ever stop. I make the whole run. It's not a smoking thing. Like, it feels like there's a knife stabbing me in my chest. And, all right, we'll do x-rays. If I do x-rays, here's some antibiotics. There's nothing wrong. Or, okay, well, we saw a little bit of here. You got a chest infection. Here's some antibiotics. That went on, I think, total from the 5 years I was in the military. I have over 100 documented chest visits to a doctor for chest-related issues. Over 100. Yeah, and so I still went to Iraq, though. We went, 2009. Still went there. I was seen there for chest issues. But, it was at the point to where I didn't know any different because I was 18 years old when I started experiencing this issue.
It's like, this is just the way it's going to be.
This is how life is. I didn't know that people don't have pain when they breathe.
You wish you went back when you were 13.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I had no idea.
So now you're in Iraq, and I know because I heard a lot of stories and I saw documentaries about these burn pits.
Mm-hmm.
Were you exposed to any of that stuff?
Yeah, so we had a burn pit. We were on a base. It was called Fob Gary Owen. Real tiny little. I think they made a Vietnam movie about Gary Owen. Tiny little base. I think from the gate, if you go around it, the perimeter, it was a 1 mile. That's it. Tiny.
That was your base?
Yeah, tiny little place.
How many guys on base? How many people on base?
Probably, I'm not 100% sure. I'd say maybe 1,500 people.
1,500?
Yeah. Yeah.
In a little 1 mile radius?
Yeah, and that included there was another little base inside the base, Green Berets, Navy SEALs.
Oh, okay.
Those guys have like their own compound because they kind of come and go as they please. They don't have to check in with security when they leave.
Right.
So
No one knows what they're doing.
yeah, so I mean, though, in the middle of the night, you'll hear beer bottles clanking and stuff. They're having fun, but
Just came back from some mission.
yeah. But yeah, it was a tiny little base. real tiny. You know, we my unit in particular, we didn't lose anybody, thankfully. We had some guys go home from injuries, but we didn't actually lose anybody, thankfully. There was some fatalities on the base, but no one that basically everybody we went there with, we came home with the exception of a few people that got sent home due to injuries. But
that's awesome.
So yeah.
So talk a little bit about the burn pits. Like what did you guys? What was that about?
Okay, so you figure, so we got this base that's a mile, right? It's a mile around, you know. Right. So you figure
so it's maybe half a mile.
Yeah, half mile each direction.
Yeah.
So we had a burn pit. It was probably the size of a football field on the base. So that's big.
On that base.
Yeah. Yeah, so we had the burn pit.
In that space.
Yep.
Of the 1 mile diameter in that space.
I'd say it was close to a football field's length. Yep.
And what did you throw in?
Everything. Everything you can imagine. Basically, you just picture a town like where we are here at Glen Rock, putting every bit of trash that every household and business collects into a pile and just set it on fire. It didn't matter what it was.
It didn't matter.
Tires, medical waste.
Yeah, so if you got flat tires on the Jeeps or the trucks.
Yep. They went in the burn pit. Yeah.
So everything just gets thrown in there.
Oh yeah, used
needle. How often do you burn
them? There was times where that thing would burn consecutively for 5-6 days straight. And it would just keep going and going. Yeah.
How did you even set it on fire? Was it lighter fluid?
JP8 jet fuel.
Jet fuel.
Jet fuel. We used to just take 5-gallon jugs of jet fuel, throw it on there, throw a road flare or something in there, a lit cigarette in there.
Was that cool being young, just like setting these things on fire?
You know, it was cool at the time because, you know, it was kind of like, well, I feel like a firefighter, but I just can't control the fire.
Right.
But then, you know, think about what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be all like black, dark.
Oh, yeah. We had tents. So we had like these actual, like you see in movies, these green tents. That's what we slept in. Those tents are not sealed.
No, they're tents like you set in your backyard.
Exactly. So they're not sealed.
And you didn't have masks. There was no.
We didn't wear anything.
Throw it in there.
Yeah, if you got lucky, if you had a pair of gloves. You know, so a lot of times we just went like this. When the wind changed direction, you know, we would just cover our faces.
Yeah. Meanwhile, here the government freaks out when COVID spread. Everybody had to wear masks for 2 years.
Yeah.
There, you're setting jet fuel on fire.
Jet fuel. I mean, medical waste,
okay.
human waste.
Just put your shirt over your.
Yeah, we didn't have anything. We didn't have anything.
Fine.
Sometimes you'd see some of the guys out there when they're doing it, they wear like their actual gas masks.
Yeah.
Because it would get severe. I mean, it would get bad, and you could tell. You knew when it was going to be bad, because you know, maybe a week would go by where it wasn't being burned, and that thing fills up fast. I mean, fast. And you know, when you walk to the burn pit, you can see that it's higher than the hole in the ground, and it's going to be a bad one.
Really?
Yeah, so you knew that when you're trying to sleep, the wind's going to blow it into the tent while you're trying to sleep. Yeah, so, I mean, for pretty much I'm going to say good 10 months out of the 12 that I was there, we were exposed to the smoke. Whether it be in high quantity or just a little bit of it. But the thing is constantly burning. You know, it just smolders. So there's always a little bit of something coming out of it.
So you come back, and that was almost the end of your serving, right?
Yeah, so I got out in it was 5 years. So October of 2011 was when I ETS or separated from the military.
So you come out, you started feeling issues?
Yeah, my chest issues got a little bit worse. I kept complaining to the military. You know, because I had about a year and a half or give or take before I got out. And I said, listen, man, I was like, I don't know what is going on in my chest, but it's getting harder now for me to actually, like, to do PT. Physical fitness is getting harder. I'm starting to develop anxiety. I'm getting depressed because I'm in constant pain.
Right.
You know,
right.
And I was diagnosed, you know, right away. They were like, well, you just got back from Iraq, so you have PTSD. But that wasn't necessarily the case. What was happening was that I was so tired of being told for so long that nothing was wrong. Because I knew something was wrong. You know, it's when you have like little minor aches and pains in your back, okay, maybe I slept wrong. But whenever you take a deep breath, it shouldn't hurt.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I knew something was wrong. And so I would just see doctor after doctor after doctor right away. They were like, you smoked. This is from smoking. You drank too much on Saturday. It's from drinking. It was everything. I mean, everything.
I think we're okay.
You don't need anything else right now?
Not right now. No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it was a little bit of everything. And then I got out, stayed with the VA, went to the VA. I was actually told at one point I have cervical neck disease, 6 herniated discs. They're like, well, it's probably the disc causing the pain, blah blah blah.
So when did they finally find out what it was?
So I went to I will give him a shout out, Dr. Feldman in Warwick, New York.
Dr. Feldman.
Dr. Feldman, Warwick, New York. He's my lifesaver. I went to him because I started getting it turned out to be like a little lipoma, but it was on my rib cage. And the thing hurt so bad, and it was in the same spot to where whenever I breathe. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, maybe I have some sort of cancer growing there. I went to my primary care. I saw somebody else. I didn't see my normal doctor because he wasn't there at the time. Guy said, I don't think it's anything to worry about, but do an ultrasound and see a surgeon just in case. I never did the ultrasound. I just went and saw the surgeon, Dr. Feldman. Saw Dr. Feldman, he checked it out. He's like, man, that's definitely not it. He's like, and this is not what's causing that pain when you breathe. He's like, there's absolutely no way. He's like, you have something wrong with your lung. And I'll never forget that. He said, you have something wrong with your lung. I said, okay. So I found a doctor in Hawthorne. He was a pulmonologist. Great friend, the great family friend, the Erin Trouts from Hawthorne.
Okay.
Mrs. Erin Trout, I call her Mama Fish because we call her Trout, so Mama Fish. Mama Fish got me in with this doctor almost immediately. I told her and I explained what was going on.
Shout out to Mama Fish.
Mama Fish, yeah. And I saw the doctor, and I was like, listen, he's like, I don't really think you got something going on. I did the pulmonary function test. He was like, it shows you have some minor abnormalities, but I think an inhaler will take care of it. I said, no, I need something more than just that. So the doc, this has been going on since 2006. He's like, but your x-rays are normal. I was like, I know they're normal. Can we do something more advanced? I've never had a CT of my chest performed. He said, okay, we'll do the CT. And I remember he kind of busted my chops. He was like, but when nothing is wrong, he's like, I'm going to refer you to a therapist. Joking.
Right.
I said, okay, no
it's
problem.
all in your mind.
Exactly. So I went for the CT, and I had the disc. They gave me the disc, and I was nosy, so I went back. And I'm not a radiologist. I didn't know what I was looking at, but I could see that where the lung was, there was all this stuff sticking out, and I'm like, what is that? And then I got to yeah, I could tell. It
doesn't look like the anatomy books. That
exactly.
You studied in school.
Yeah, I was like, all right, well, that's my lung there. I was like, but that bump, that's not the lung.
Wow.
So I ended up getting the report from the radiology clinic, and that was detailed. That showed what was going on. 13 millimeter nodule in the left lower lobe, 5 millimeter nodule left lower lobe. There was 13 total, I believe, on the left side. And then the right side, they mentioned 5 or 6, the different all these fibrotic nodules and stuff like that.
So they finally come up with a name for what you had?
Not at the moment. So I go in, it's October 3rd of 2018 because that's my birthday, and I remember that day. Went in, they wanted me to be the last patient of the day. Now, I had already seen the report. Now, the doctor's saying, hey, we want you to be the last patient when no one else is around. I'm like, oh, this is going to be bad news.
No.
So I went with my wife at the time, and I already knew. But as weird as it sounds, I was so relieved that something was finally, an answer was around.
Yeah.
It wasn't the answer I wanted. But I remember he sat down and he goes, listen, do you remember having a CT of your abdomen in 2012? I'm like, no, why? He's like, well, I found one. I'm like, okay, what's the relevance here? He goes, in 2012, when you had the CT, they called the bottom portion of your lungs, and you had nodules in your lungs. They never told you. He said, and I compared them, they've grown significantly.
So they could have caught it in 12.
They could have caught it in 2012, which would have been... Actually, it would have been 3 months after I got out of the military. They could have caught it. So they didn't tell me about it. Luckily, it was the same the same hospital where I had the CT performed both times. So Dr. G, I'll just call him Dr. G. He goes, the nodules have grown pretty drastically from 2012 to now that I think you have lung cancer. I said, okay. And I will never forget it. And people say I'm crazy for this. I was so happy. I was so happy.
So you knew you had a name for it.
Yeah, I said finally. I'm like, finally. And I was like, Doc, thanks for finally taking this seriously. Because for my entire adult life, no one ever believed me.
Yeah.
You know, they were just doing an X-ray and it was normal. You know, and he couldn't believe it himself. He's like, I just can't believe that this is what we found. So he referred me out to a surgeon in Columbia Presbyterian. I mean, top-notch guy. You know, the director of thoracic surgery at Columbia. A transplant lung surgeon. And so I knew I was seeing the best. I mean, this guy is probably one of the best doctors in the nation. And I don't know how I got so lucky to see him and so quickly, but I did. And so Veterans Day is November 8th, 2018.
On Veterans Day?
On Veterans Day, oddly enough, yeah. So I see him, and he's like, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a biopsy of the biggest nodule, 13 millimeter nodule, and we'll see what it is. And if need be, we'll extract some, a little bit bigger of a area, just in case. Okay, no problem. Well, I went in for surgery, and it took about 4 hours. And I woke up, and the first thing I wanted to know was, is it cancer? My wife was there. No, it's not cancer. I'm like, all right, sweet. That's cool. No idea what it was. No, I had no idea what was going on. I'm like, all right, it's not cancer. It's nothing to worry about.
Right.
And then she's like, but they took out almost your whole lung. I was like, what? What do you mean they took out almost my whole lung? The doctor comes in, he sees me. He's like, your entire lung couldn't. And he was like, much to my surprise, he's like, I couldn't believe this. Your entire lung is fibrotic. It's all scar tissue. But it's not working. So we took out the whole bottom, the whole lower lobe, which is the bottom half, and then part of the upper half. So really, in reality, I only have about that much left of a left lung. That's it.
Wow.
So it turned out to be a disease. It's a pretty rare disease, known as pulmonary fibrosis.
So they finally said, this is what you have.
Yeah, so they finally said,
after all those years,
they said, you have pulmonary fibrosis.
So I know, we talked a little bit before we went on camera, and it's a very rare disease. I mean, you were telling me how many people.
Yeah, so I believe in this. I could be wrong. I know it's somewhere between 150,000 to 200,000 people a year get diagnosed with the disease.
And is there any cure for it?
No, there's no cure at the moment for it. Really, the only cure for the disease is a lung transplant, and it's usually bilateral or double. But we're in a time where transplants are. It's not an easy thing to get, and believe it or not, too, a lot of people don't want to transplant.
Right? They just want to go on with.
They want to go on with their life.
Does it spread?
Yeah. So it is a disease that continues to get worse. Or it's progressive, as they say.
Even though they removed the lung, can it eventually get over to the other lung?
So I do have it in the right lung as well.
You do?
Yeah, I do. Right now, it's mild in the right lung, based on imaging. If we were to go into the right lung, like during surgery, it might shock you. It might be discovered that it's actually worse than we think, like what happened with the left lung.
Yeah.
We don't know. But yeah, it's a progressive disease, meaning that it will continue to spread. There's medications out there that can help slow down the spread of the disease, but pulmonary fibrosis in of itself is not a curable, and it's not irreversible. Once the damage is there, it's there to stay.
See, this is the kind of guy that Adam is. When he found out that he had pulmonary fibrosis, he found out, it's very rare, about 200,000 people have it, that he became an ambassador. He became an ambassador
Yep.
for the Pulmonary Fibrosis Foundation. And the problem is, it's such a little known foundation that they don't have the kind of money for research that different cancers do and all that.
Exactly.
Kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So talk a little bit about the foundation.
Yeah, so the foundation, I found them in 2018, believe it or not, and what had happened was I was Googling pulmonary fibrosis. Now, I like to call it Dr. Google. Dr. Google will have you convinced that you're doomed.
Yeah.
And I thought I was doomed based on my research of pulmonary fibrosis, because I got the diagnosis, but I never really got told anything about it.
Right.
And that's not,
because it's so rare.
That, and the surgeon who diagnosed it, that's not really his position to do that. So no offense to his, but so I looked it up. I Googled pulmonary fibrosis, and the first thing that came up on Google was Pulmonary Fibrosis Foundation. I looked over them at first because I was like, well, let me see what this is all about. And it tells you on Google the life expectancy of pulmonary fibrosis is 3 to 5 years. And I was like, oh wow. I was like, okay. And so I reached out to the Pulmonary Fibrosis Foundation, and I sent my medical records. And I said, I need help. I don't know what to do. Okay, is there a doctor that can help me? And, legality purposes, they can't do that. They can't say, well, this is what we think. So they kind of said, hey, and they said that, listen.
Could they recommend you to someone?
There is a care. They do have doctors all over the nation. Oddly enough, the surgeon who diagnosed me is part of their care network.
Really?
So when I said, this was my surgeon, they said, yeah, we know exactly who he is.
Wow.
And basically told me I'm in good hands. And then I said, this is my pulmonologist. I said, we know who he is too. We deal with him. So keep going to those people. Okay, great. So that's what I did. And then, the medication started, the inhalers, some oral antibiotics, things like that.
So you have to take stuff every day.
Yeah, so a lot of people take, it's called an antifibrotic. And I think there's only like 2 or 3 kinds out there right now. And basically what happens is it's supposed to target just the lungs and it's supposed to help slow the disease progression. So a lot of people take that. A lot of people, they don't need to take it. Some people have the disease a lot milder, like I do. Some people have it to where it's advanced. And I mean, I've met people through the foundation that, just this past weekend we had the New York City Pulmonary Fibrosis Foundation walk down at Liberty State Park. And I met people there that are on oxygen.
Wow.
That were diagnosed a year ago. And there's people there that were diagnosed 5 years ago, but they've got a lung transplant since. So now they're better, But yeah, so I found the foundation and I said, hey, I don't know anything about this disease. And they're like, well, we have plenty of resources for you. And they did. Plenty of resources.
A lot of stuff online that you could look up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And
on their website?
Webinars.
I'm going to shout their website out. Listen, if you want to get more information on this, it's pulmonaryfibrosis.org.
Yes.
Right? And you can see I'm putting it on the bottom of the screen.
Yep.
So pulmonaryfibrosis.org. You can go on there and you can read up on it, do some research. If you or any of your friends, people that are struggling with lung issues, I mean, obviously this went untreated for so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
And clearly 3 to 5 years didn't take over.
No, yeah. So that whole 3 to 5 year thing, that was one of the biggest things I learned from the foundation after I started working with them a little bit. Is that the 3 to 5 year thing? That's Dr. Google. It's that's not true. There's people who,
the internet.
Yeah, exactly. There's people who have the disease that go on to live a fulfilling life, but they just have the disease.
Yeah.
Now, is there going to come a day where the disease may suddenly worsen for me? Yes. That's a very strong possibility.
Do you think you might be pushing it, climbing 20,000 feet next year?
I don't. In my personal opinion, I think being active is probably one of the best things you can do. It's not going to slow down the progression of the disease, of course,
right.
But at least you're staying active. You're working the lung out, or you're working the lungs, the lung.
The lung out. Yeah.
You're getting it. You're moving it around because basically what happens with the disease, something happens to where a scar forms inside the lung. Now, in my case, it could have been that 2006 collapsed lung. The lung wasn't getting enough air for some reason. And it ended up becoming scar tissue. That's why after surgery, they give you that funny machine where you have to...
Yeah, you have to suck the little ball up.
And you suck the little ball up.
Yeah,
it's so you don't get pneumonia, so that your lungs are staying active, because what they don't want is that to happen. They don't want scar tissue to start forming because it's not being used.
Yeah, I had pneumonia. I had a
Yeah, so the disease, the onset of the disease could have started because of the collapsed lung when I was in the military that went untreated. But I don't know. The stipulations, we can guess all day long. I have no idea. But I'm a firm believer, and the medical field may feel differently because of that. That principle. I think that staying active and keeping the lungs going might end up being helpful. I don't know for sure.
So September of next year, September of 2023, Adam he's already committed to climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. It's just under 20,000 feet, and it's really to bring awareness to. You're going to be. Has anyone with pulmonary fibrosis ever?
No. So the goal is to raise awareness for the Pulmonary Fibrosis Foundation. And it's not so much the foundation, because right now, as far as I know, they're the only foundation for the disease. It's not like where they have the American Cancer Society and then the Pearl Mudder Cancer Foundation and all those things. As of right now, this is it, as far as I know. you know, I've been involved with them now since 2018, and I have never heard of another organization. So really what I want to do is I want to bring awareness to the disease itself, which in turn I know will bring awareness to the foundation. Because the foundation is great. I know a lot of people, they get involved with like these medical foundations and they want to preach it as the best thing ever, you know. But when there's only one of something, it's got to be the best.
It is the best.
And it is the best, you know.
Yeah. Well, and that gives you an idea of how little awareness there is.
That there's only one.
That there's only one.
Yes. Exactly.
I mean, that's and can people donate money?
Yeah, so you can donate money. I don't have the address. You can. There is a mailing address on the
website
on pulmonary-fibrosis.org. You can donate through there. You can actually donate, as far as I know, through social media. You can look up the Pulmonary Fibrosis Foundation's Facebook.
Okay.
You'll see some stuff about me on there from previous things I've done.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure there's a donate button there. But pulmonary-fibrosis.org, their website, would be definitely the best way to donate.
So I asked Adam. I said, you know, well, do you have a GoFundMe page? Are you taking donations for your climb of Mount Kilimanjaro and you know, bring in more awareness? And he said no.
No, I don't want to. See, the thing is, like, I'm not doing it. I'm doing it for the self-perseverance, the pride of myself. I have no desire on being like some sort of a special person in the world and the community, of being like, oh my God, you hiked it with one lung and a disease. You know, yeah, that is what's going to raise the awareness, but I don't really care if I get the attention.
Right. You want the attention to go to the Pulmonary Fibrosis Foundation.
Yeah, I want the awareness of the disease, and let's face it, people like to see other people do hard things that almost seem impossible. That's when it really like makes you think, oh my God, like, wow, what's this guy got? Let's check out his story, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so I can just picture the headlines, like, you know, something along the lines like New Jersey veteran with rare lung disease climbs Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
You know, that's going to get the attention that I wanted to get.
And you'll be the first person.
I'll be the first person in the world to summit Kilimanjaro with pulmonary fibrosis.
With one lung.
With that and pulmonary fibrosis. Yep.
I don't even know what to say.
Yeah.
I have a hard time climbing 13 stairs to my bedroom.
Yeah.
And I'm huffing and puffing.
Yeah.
And here he is. Listen, it's tremendous what you're doing. If
Thank you.
People just want to send you a note of encouragement,
of course, they
good
can
luck.
do that through you directly. I mean, you could always forward it to me because we're on Facebook together.
Sure. And they can find you on Facebook?
They can always find me on Facebook. It's just Adam Faatz, F as in Frank, A-T-Z.
Adam Faatz.
And they can do that if they want to just send a note.
Are you on Instagram too?
I'm on Instagram, but very seldomly, not really too much.
So
Facebook
would
be the way to go.
Listen, look up Adam, send him a word of encouragement, send him a good luck, send him your prayers. You started training already?
Started training about 2 months ago.
Now, what kind of training?
A lot of hiking. I was hiking yesterday, actually. I hiked so far that I got blisters on the bottom of my toes. I did about 16 miles yesterday in the heat with about 40 pounds on my
pounds
back.
of gear.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, being in the military, you guys are always have
Yeah,
gear.
yeah. You know, it's usually I know people
So
say
you don't feel at home without gear.
I know. You know, people say you get that runner's high. That's kind of what happens with me. It's like the first mile and a half, I'm like, oh man, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
You know, then the pain kind of goes away, and I'm like, this isn't so bad. But then it gets bad again. I'm like, this is kind of not fun anymore.
Yeah. I'd rather be fishing. How about that?
Yeah, that is very true. Yeah.
Well, I give you a lot of credit, man. I really sincerely appreciate what you're doing for the Pulmonary Foundation, Pulmonary Fibrosis Foundation, and the fact that, you know, in such a climate where everybody comes out with GoFundMe pages for all the different reasons, that you're doing it because you want to bring awareness to the disease you have and disease other people have, and you know what, for the 200,000 people that do have it, how many other 100,000 people don't know they have it?
Exactly.
Because if you don't have the money for the research, you're going to go like you did. You went unchecked for years. Yeah,
and you know, it's funny how you say that, because I think within the last 3 years, the awareness for the disease has gotten a lot. It's getting better. You know, I just, the Pulmonary Fibrosis Foundation, we did a thing, it was called Hill Day, Capitol Hill, where we got people together from all over, you know, and contacted representatives through Skype, or not through Skype, through Zoom. And like, hey, listen, we need, and we all shared a story, and I shared it with Congressman Gottheimer, and told him my story from 2006 till now. and said, listen, the National Institute of Health needs the funding to study this disease because it's becoming more and more prevalent, especially with the age of COVID.
Right.
You know, you hear about like...
You don't know how you're compromised. Your body's compromised.
Exactly.
Your lungs are compromised.
Yeah, and so with COVID, you know, you hear about this irreversible damage that COVID can do to the lungs. That's pulmonary fibrosis. So, you know, as bad as COVID-19 is, it's also bringing awareness to the disease because it's like, well, what in the world is going on?
Right.
You know,
why
and so
are these people continuing to struggle?
Yeah, and so luckily, the that Hill Day through the foundation was a success, and they allotted, they put in their writing to the National Institute of Health to, I think it was a tremendous amount. I might even be underplaying it. It was something like $394 million just to the National Institute of Health to study pulmonary fibrosis. So the foundation really is doing a lot of good things out there. I mean, I've dealt with so many foundations, the Wounded Warrior Project, you know, a lot of different veterans organizations, but I've never met a foundation that actually fights so much for just one sole thing.
Right.
And that really is the Pulmonary Fibrosis Foundation. I couldn't be any more proud to be a part of that foundation because, yeah, you know, I was hesitant at first because you see so many different foundations. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, well, you hear some of the horror stories too. It's like, well, the CEO of the foundation was pocketing all the donation money. You know, you're very hesitant at first, kind of just like, you know, where's it going to go? Is this the right thing? And I don't get it. I don't get that impression at all. I mean, they're based out of Chicago, and they sent all their employees down here for last weekend for the walk.
Yeah.
They were here to meet and greet all of us. You know, that's not normal. So,
again, it's Pulmonary Fibrosis Foundation. Go to pulmonaryfibrosis.org. If you want to donate money, you can donate it through that website. And if you want to send Adam a word of encouragement and an attaboy, especially as he starts to train. And listen, if any of you watching or listening, if you are climbers and you've done high mountains and you have advice, you're open to that, right?
Absolutely. If you've done Kilimanjaro especially, I want advice. I don't even know what to pack yet.
He can't find anybody in the area that has climbed Kilimanjaro or anything equivalent to
it. It's just blogs, and most of it is what to pack. You know, because you think Africa, Tanzania, it's going to be hot.
Yeah.
I mean, you start off with giraffes and monkeys, but you get halfway up before, you know, they call it summit night, which is the longest trek of the trip. You know, a lot of people don't realize this trip takes anywhere between 7 to 11 days. Yeah, you got to acclimate yourself as you go.
Yeah.
And so you start off in the Saharan heat out there, and by the time you're halfway up the mountain, it's snowing.
Yeah.
And it's -5, -10, and then the wind chill factor. There's nothing protecting you from the wind. So, you know, I don't even know, to be honest with you, what I should pack. Because the biggest issue I'm finding right now is I need an alpine mask, an oxygen mask. Generally, I know a lot of people who've seen this. There might be someone on here who says you don't need oxygen on Mount Kilimanjaro, which you don't.
But you have one lung.
Exactly. So it's a little different in my situation. I am going to need oxygen because the biggest thing you want to worry about there is obviously altitude sickness is one of those, but that's easy. You just descend. You got to worry about
breathing.
Pulmonary embolisms is one big. It's a very high danger, and that's cerebral embolism, which is you're in trouble if you get that. So I need if anybody has any suggestions where to look, or even if they have one that's used that I can purchase or just have. I need I need a high altitude oxygen mask like you see on Mount Everest, the fighter jet looking mask.
Yeah.
I can get the supplemental oxygen, that's not a problem. I just need that mask. The only thing I've really been able to find is base overseas, out in Nepal near Everest.
Right.
Some of those are used. I'm not so sure I'm comfortable with purchasing something from over there unless I absolutely have no choice.
All right, so listen, if you know anybody or you hear anything, Adam Faatz, Faatz, on Facebook. You could reach out to him and send words of encouragement. Send him your prayers. He's going to put this together, and you promised we're going to see you. You're going up September 2023. We're going to come back on in August, right?
August, yeah.
Adam, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having me. It was fun.
All right, guys, thank you so much. And again, pulmonaryfibrosis.org. Check out about the foundation, learn a little more, and if you're able to, I know it's really difficult times right now, if you're able to donate, you'll see exactly what they do. You heard it from the ambassador for pulmonary fibrosis, and next year is going to get a lot of press. You're going to get a lot of people curious in your store.
That's the goal.
Yeah,
that is the goal.
All right, so reach out and then send them an attaboy. All right, be well, everybody.